Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and I'm flying my Great Lakes over to Lake Geneva and on the old Playboy Club and Playboy runway. Now I'm going into Lake Lawn here. That's the first part of this little trip on the way to Lake Geneva, and doing a little touch and go here, and then we're going to head on over. There's several lakes in southern Wisconsin here. You got Lake Geneva, and then just north of it, Lake Lawn. And I used to fly in here in my Cessna 172 in that, and we'd go across the road to the Lake Lawn Lodge and have something to eat. But this airport was kind of so desolate, I was wondering if it was really truly open. I checked before. It is truly open, but it was kind of questionable. And here's taken off over the Lake Lawn golf course there, and yeah, the little area down there, you can go in there and have something to eat. You can also do that landing at the Americana runway, which is the old Playboy runway, actually, the Lake Geneva Playboy Club. That I actually have a 25th edition of the Playboy magazine that shows a lot of the bunnies and stuff in the little pool there around the Playboy Club. But here I am taking off out of their Lake Lawn, and I went over Lake Lawn, and now I'm heading down towards Lake Geneva on just a real nice day to get out there and fly in the open cockpit biplane. You notice I've got some high clouds there that essentially keep it kind of cool. And there's a second little lake just south of Lake Lawn. I forget the name of it. It's kind of a little muddy lake. But I'm heading across that into Lake Geneva. And Lake Geneva, that's where a lot of the very wealthy people from Chicago would have houses, and they would come up to Lake Geneva during the summer and that. Nice if you were a wealthy person out of Chicago, you could get away from the city and come up into a nice resort-like establishment. Now, they used to do that on Crystal Lake also. I guess if you weren't quite as rich, you came to Crystal Lake and had a little more money, you could go up to Lake Geneva, because there are some just absolutely gorgeous houses up there that we'll take a look at. And you can see it coming into view. Oh, and if you're wondering, that's what the cockpit looks like. On the left, I have a 660, area 660 with a little navigation stuff. I got my G5 in the center there, and on the right I had the engine instruments, and then I got my little radio and transponder below, and then above I got my airspeed, my altimeter, and my G meter. Now, the altimeter they had, it's a small size altimeter, and they stopped making, I guess, the mechanical ones. They put an electronic one in there, and I was kind of concerned about having a electrical altimeter. And they said, well, this isn't an IFR airplane. If you lose electrics, which was my concern, you're VFR, so you don't really need the altimeter anyway. And I go, yeah, you got a point. And there's one in the G5 anyway. And that has its own internal battery. And that's a nice thing. The 660 also has an internal battery, so you can lose all electrical power and it'll operate on its own for a while. All right. Now we're coming up to the west end of Lake Geneva. And there's a little marina down there. We'll see that on the way out. But I one time brought my my speedboat, brought it up from Crystal Lake. Actually, it's the only time I had that boat not on Crystal Lake. when I brought it up to Lake Geneva, and we went out with some friends for the day, out on the lake and swimming and stuff like that. And then at the end, there's some restaurants on the east end. That's where the town is of Lake Geneva. It's on the east end of the lake, and you can go out there. And we had some nice fish fries and stuff like that. Actually, it was kind of funny. My friends were on a little more of a health kick than we were, and they wanted the broiled fish, and we were getting the deep fat fried. I know. And they kept going, can we have a piece of your deep fat fried fish? So we were leading them astray. And here I'm kind of just going down the center of the lake. There are the nice houses on either side. This was more in the fall, so there's not a lot of boat activity out on the lake. It's getting a little bit cool. During the summer, this lake can just be absolutely full of activity. And as you can tell, it's a pretty good-sized lake. Even going at about 110 miles per hour, it takes quite a while to go from one end of the lake to the other. And I remember when I was in high school, I believe it was, you could fly your airplane into the Playboy Club there. And they had a picture of a guy, he was doing an article about flying into the Playboy Club. And they used to have a little shack off the end of the runway. In fact, it was pointed out to me when I was in there one time. I would fly in there and then go up to the lodge there in Lake Geneva. They call it Grand Genevan, I believe. But it's the old Playboy area. And you would fly your airplane in there, and they had a guy fly in his Piper 140, and they had a bunny come out up on the wing, and they're getting the pictures, of course, for the magazine. I wish I would have kept this. It was so funny. But the bunny is bringing him a bottle of champagne when he's on the wing of his Piper 140. Now I'm thinking, okay, she's probably bringing that bottle of champagne up there to hit him with it and tell him to get this cheap piece of whatever out of here. You know, you're taking up room for the big boys, the guys with the money. But now we're getting towards the east end of Lake Geneva here, and this is where you have a lot more of the city. And if you've ever been to Lake Geneva, there's a lot of neat little stores and shops to go through and everything. And just off the east end, like I said, is the resort. And I'm going to come around, and I'm entering downwind essentially, and I'll do a touch and go on the runway. It's kind of an interesting approach because the terrain is a little high on the south side where you're coming in. There's some trees and that, so it gives you a few optical illusions as you're coming in. It's not a bad runway. I've taken my 310 in there. I don't think you'd want to take anything too much faster in that. It's not the greatest runway, and of course it's really kind of gone downhill recently since it's No longer the Playboy Club, of course. And it has been for quite a few years. Alright, we're coming up to the runway on the left. You can't really see it very well. There's the golf course down there. That's associated with the lodge now. And was, of course, part of the Playboy Club back in the day. No bunnies are going to meet the biplane today, unfortunately. I'm not stopping anyway. Alright, starting the turn towards the runway. And this is the higher terrain south, and then it kind of slopes down into the runway area. Kind of lose the view of the runway with the trees and that. There it is, coming off the nose. And you can see it's not in the best condition. And all the buildings are off to the right there. Can't really see it very well. Wish you can park your airplane, walk up the hill to the restaurant at the old Playboy Lodge. Yeah, they're off to the right. We just went by. That's where the old bunny house used to be, where they'd come out and meet the airplanes. Climbing out over the golf course. The lodge is to the right. And then we're picking up Lake Geneva off the nose again. And that's the interstate highway that goes up north and south. And the downtown area of Lake Geneva. They actually have a boat that goes around the circumference of the lake, and they deliver mail on the lakeside. They'll have their little boxes there, and you can actually go up to Lake Geneva and you can get the boat tours, and one of them is you can get on the mail tour. And the boat, it's a big boat, like a ferry. It never really actually stops. It just keeps on going, and the mail carrier get off the bow area, deliver the mail in the box, and then jump back on the stern. And they told me that they almost always make it. I think the one lady said she fell in between once. There's also an observatory that's on the northwest corner of the lake, and that's actually it was in a movie a long time ago. And you can see all the boat docks down there. As you can see, this is a very good sized lake. It takes a bit of time to get around it in just a small boat. In the summer, they'll have a lot of sailing races out here. And I think this flight would be a very good place to have the tail wheel mounted camera looking down. And I'm going to do one where I'm flying over the houses so you get a much better view of the real nice houses that are in this area. And getting time to head back to Daisy. Doing a little turn here for fun. And then here is the marina off at the west end of the lake where I launched my boat. and now heading back to Daisy Airport. Thanks for watching.